Built Better, the podcast for home improvement contractors by Modernize Home Services.
And so are you trying to essentially, you said you don't have a cookie cutter approach, but do you have in your mind what, let's say, a utopia call center looks like? And are you trying to push those folks to get to that utopia state, or is there some kind of combination?
We try where we can. But really we work with where our dealers are at and progress in that way. Obviously, you've got huge goals that you would have, but you don't want to throw out goals to a company who's not even halfway there yet. So it really is different based on where each dealer is at.
Hey, Camille, Chris here. I don't know. I find this topic so interesting because, Dom and I have had, just years of dealing with contractors. We probably have talked to a lot of the same ones as well. When you look at the difference between those dealers that perform well on whatever lead source you guys are choosing to measure, and then those that don't perform well, obviously there's going to be differences in processes, maybe differences in technology, but what are the top two things in your mind that really stand out that separate those that perform well and those that don't perform well?
I think the top two would be, number one, leadership. Who is that leader and how involved are they with the call center team? Are they sitting in the room with them every day, or are they out somewhere in a different office, not hardly involved, maybe shooting emails here and there? So really, how are those leaders involved with the day in and day out dialing process? And then secondly, it's that culture. So you'll have, a thriving call center culture. It's very loud in there. People are having fun. They're all friends. They hang out outside of work. They love coming into work. And then you may walk in and it could be opposite. They're not even hardly making any noise, talking to each other. They hate being there. But both of those things really obviously fall under the leadership. How are they managing the team? How involved are they? Are they putting in that extra effort to build that culture to help thrive in those call centers?
That's great. I think when I think of that, one of the things that I look for, and I think it touches on the culture and the leadership, I word it a little bit different, is the way that the leaders of the company think about that particular channel. When it comes down to any lead source, be it, event canvassing, door to door, they all work. We have clients across the country that are billion-dollar companies in different channels, but I think it comes down to how people think about that particular channel. Cliche is to say, but if you think you can make it work, you're going to find a way to make it work. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you won't. So, no, I appreciate that. That's good feedback on that.
Camille, obviously the elephant in the room always has been COVID, right? And in call center environments, the things that a lot of folks did early on is they moved to more of a remote call center atmosphere. Has that been the biggest challenge, or has it been a significant challenge that you've seen in trying to set up those remote agents, have people work from home and be effective when you're removing that good culture, that loud environment, hit the gong, whatever it might be, right? Can you talk to me a little bit about how that has been overcome?
Yeah, I would say, at one point, 100% of our call centers went virtual, went remote. And it was a struggle at first to kind of transition to that new virtual lifestyle. We even have an advisory board, a virtual call center advisory board that we developed specifically for that, because everyone's trying to figure out how to make it work. And so on that advisory, we discovered some things that actually can help in the virtual world. But what it really boiled down to was these are things we should have been doing anyways. So they're having more meetings. They're talking more one-on-one with each person. One thing I really love that a lot of people implemented that helped in this virtual world is setting up Zoom meetings where they're listening to live calls with each other. So you'll have a veteran caller listening to the live calls with maybe a newer caller, and they're able to kind of have that one-on-one connection that you could get in the office. But I will say this, majority are going back into the office. It's slow, but they are looking to go back to that setup, which is good news. I think everybody's excited about it.
So that's a good call out, actually. So why do you think the remote versus in person? Why would you migrate back to in person versus remote?
Just again, that culture and being able to be there with everybody, pick up on things. They hear that veteran caller who's able to set appointments back to back, and you might be a newer caller and it's like, wow, I heard how they said that. That's that rebuttal we talked about. Now that I hear it live and in action, I can do that now. And it's just really, that family mindset that gets developed there.
Did you have any pushback in trying to bring people from remote to back to, from new normal to old normal?
From who I've talked to, there are a couple people that are pushing back. And I think some people are looking at it from a results standpoint. Are you still as productive from home? If you really want to work from home, we might make this work for you. So there are some people pushing back, but then there are some people that are just cannot wait to get back in there.
I want to ask you a question on the performance part of it, because we have so many companies we work with massive call centers, and so many have had to relocate, and some are choosing not to bring back into the office at all. When you look at purely the number side of things, what was the biggest downside of COVID from a metric standpoint, if there was one?
I think it was just the training, honestly, and bringing new people on. From a metric standpoint, though, I didn't ever get exact numbers, but it was that training that was really the biggest struggle, and getting new people ready to take those calls. So the set rates, the issue rates from that standpoint were decreased a little bit. But I don't know from the number standpoint. In fact, they said most people were more productive.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you from a number standpoint. What was positive that came from it?
But keep in mind, Chris, as a manufacturer, we just don't have access to all of their stats on how they convert all their leads. So, we can have different calls where they might share it as a one-off, but as a manufacturer, just don't have access to that kind of data.
Okay, got you. So a little lack of data.
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially in our deals are not franchises. So everything we give, it's surprising when you hear the training that Camille delivers. We deliver this all in a non-franchise environment, which is actually very unusual.